Babe Ruth was born on February 6, 1895 in Baltimore, Maryland, United States. Son of Kate Schamberger Ruth and George Herman Ruth Sr., who tended a tavern and frequently left him alone, so when he was 7 years old he was admitted to St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys, an orphanage and reform school for Catholic missionaries, where they barely visited him. He began his career in 1914 as a left-handed pitcher for the Baltimore team of the International League. That same year, he played for the Providence team and later for the Boston Red Sox of the American League. He was a pitcher for Boston until the 1919 season, and his ability as a hitter and fielder led the coaches to convert him to an outfielder. From 1920 to 1935, he played as an outfielder for the New York Yankees in the American League. In 1935, he was vice president of the Boston Braves of the National League and participated in several games as an outfielder. 3 years later, as a coach, he signed with the Brooklyn Dodgers of the National League. He is considered one of the best left-handed pitchers, and from 1919 until the end of his career he was the best outfielder of his time and one of the best in the history of baseball. In 1927, he hit 60 home runs in 154 games, the record that remained unbeaten until 1961. His total of 714 home runs in the regular seasons was surpassed by Hank Aaron in 1974 and by Barry Bonds in 2006. Baltimore Orioles. At the age of 19 he was hired by Jack Dunn, owner and manager of the Baltimore Orioles of the International League. He noticed the young Ruth's abilities and hired him for his team in early 1914. Veteran Orioles players began to refer to him as Dunny's baby. That nickname accompanied him for the rest of his life, although sports journalists baptized Babe as the Great Bambino and the Sultan of Swap, something like the Sultan of the Crash. Boston Red Sox. Ruth with the Red Sox. In 1918 he made his major league debut as a pitcher in July 1914. He pitched 89 game winners before 1920. In 1916 Babe reached the World Series and pitched Game 4 against the Brooklyn Robins. He gave up a run in the first inning and did not give up another run in the 14 innings that the game lasted. It was the longest complete game in baseball history in the World Series, until it was surpassed in length by the third game of the 2018 World Series, between the Boston Red Sox and the Los Angeles Dodgers, a game that lasted up to 18 innings. 2 years later he returned to the Fall Classic. He did not allow a run in the first game and gave up a run until the 8th inning of the 4th game. These numbers, together with those achieved 2 years earlier, made a total of 29 and 2/3 innings without allowing a run, the record that lasted 43 years. The Boston team was 5-time World Series champions up to that point, the last 3 with Ruth on the team. Ruth left the team and would not achieve another championship until the 2004 World Series of Baseball. This period of 86 years of drought was known as the Curse of the Bambino. New York Yankees. On January 5, 1920, Ruth was traded to the New York Yankees in exchange for $125,000 in cash and another $300,000 in loans that Red Sox owner Harry Frazee used to finance his Broadway productions. The sale of Babe Ruth to the Yankees is considered one of the worst transactions in the history of American sports. Babe Ruth wearing the Yankees uniform. Just in his first season with the Yankees in 1920, Ruth set a record of 54 home runs in a season, surpassing the one he himself had set the previous year with 29. Babe played as an outfielder and was the star of the team, despite the fact that his body was far from being that of an athlete, as he had a thick trunk and thin legs. Its popularity was so great that the playing field that the Yankees shared with the Giants, the Polo Grounds, could no longer accommodate it. They built a new one, Yankee Stadium, which opened in 1923. The setting was known to posterity as the house that Ruth built. Ruth's fame continued to grow. In 1927 he achieved a mark of 60 home runs in a season, which would last until 1961 when Roger Maris surpassed it with 61 home runs. However, the official scorers highlighted that Ruth did it in a season of 154 games. Maris, on the other hand, did it in one of 162. One fact made Ruth a mix. In the third game of the World Series against the Chicago Cubs in 1932, in the 5th inning, pitcher Charlie Root led the score against the Bambino 2-2. Suddenly he pointed to the stands in center field. Many interpret this signal as the direction the ball would go. others as a challenge to the pitcher. The fact is that he hit a home run, which according to many, was the longest at Wrigley Field, home of the Cubs. The Yankees won the series by sweep, their third in 4 years. With Ruth, the Yankees won 7 American League championships, of which they went on to 4 World Series. On September 29, 1934, he hit his last home run for the Yankees, and the next day was the last day he wore the uniform. Boston Braves. He moved to the Boston Braves where he would play his last season in 1935. He played and coached first base at the same time. On May 25 he hit 3 home runs in Pittsburgh. The Baker Bowl in Philadelphia was the scene of Ruth's last game as a professional on May 30 against the Phillies. On June 2, after a discussion with the team's owner, Emil Fuchs, he announced his retirement from baseball. He finished the season with a batting average of 181, the lowest of his career, and 6 home runs. The Braves, who were 10-27 when Ruth left the team, finished the year with a record of 38 wins and 115 losses, the worst percentage in modern National League history. He retired with 714 home runs, later only surpassed by Barry Bonds and Hank Aaron in the entire history of Major League Baseball. In 1999, the Associated Press chose him as the Athlete of the Century,